This retiree quadrupled his income. By the end of this video episode, you will understand how a real estate landlord saved $250,000 of tax on his IRAs and quadrupled his income. Get ready. This is going to blow you away. So I'm Doug Andrew. I've been a financial strategist and retirement planning specialist now for nearly 5 decades, helping thousands of people in America optimize their assets, minimize taxes, and empower what I call their authentic wealth. In doing this, many people will see the light and understand how to perform what I call a strategic rollout on their IRAs and 401ks. Why? Because unfortunately, most Americans follow the herd and they put their money into tax-deferred IRAs or 401ks because they were told to do that at their employer and participate in the company 401k. They were told that they would likely be in a lower tax bracket when they retired. And so they just sort of put their head in the sand and assumed that would be the case. Well, I have discovered over 48 and a half years that most savers, those people who do save for retirement to maintain the same lifestyle they had while they were earning, they hit retirement and they're shocked because they are not in a lower tax bracket. Why? Well, first of all, they accumulated a pretty good nest egg. And while they were doing that, they were going down the highway with one foot on the gas pedal and the other foot on the brake pedal, and they didn't know they were doing it. What I mean by that is they were putting money into tax-deferred accounts, which is the foot on the gas, they thought, but the other foot was on the brake pedal because they were actually killing the deductions that they had by paying off their house later on in retirement. The kids are gone, so you can't deduct them anymore. In retirement, you don't contribute money to IRAs or 401k, so you don't have those deductions anymore. If you're a business owner, you don't have those deductions anymore. And Congress keeps raising taxes because of irresponsible government spending and the printing of money and on and on. And so the rude awakening is what we call the tax trap. People who save realize, oh my heck, I'm not going to be in a lower tax bracket. Why did I do this? It would have been better to have used a Roth approach, but only 9% of Americans sort of understand that and set aside money in Roths. Now, if you've watched very many of my educational episodes or read any of my books, I've never owned an IRA or 401k, and I never will. And I've never owned a Roth IRA or 401k, never will. Why? Because my favorite vehicle, which I call the LASERFund, which is the title of a book I want to gift you at the end of this episode, it has the two benefits of a Roth, meaning I can accumulate my money tax-free. I can access the money tax-free. I can get tax-free income. But I have 4 additional benefits in a LASERFund that a Roth will never offer. So why would I mess around with a Roth? And you'll learn what those benefits are when you study the book I'm going to gift you at the end of this episode. But let's get back to this story, and it will help illustrate my point. So we teach educational seminars. I've been doing this for years, and I had a very savvy real estate investor. He was a landlord. He owned several rental homes and duplexes, had done very well for himself, and he came to one of our educational sessions, and he came in for a consultation, and he had also socked away money into 401ks, and he had rolled those over into IRAs, being told by his advisor, oh, if you don't need that money in your IRAs, continue to defer until you're age 70 and a half. Now it's age 72, but back when I met him, it was age 70 and a half. And he was now at that age, and he came to this educational seminar because his wife had just died, and he was beginning to realize, wow, I'm in a pretty high tax bracket. Is there a better way? And he had been taking his positive cash flow on his rental properties and been plowing it against the mortgages, trying to pay off his rental properties, thinking that was the smartest thing to do. And he continued to defer in his IRAs, but now he was age 70 and a half, he had to start accessing money to avoid a 50% penalty. Yep. If you don't start taking out money out of those IRAs by the time you're 70 and a half, now it's age 72, the government will still tax you, plus they will penalize you 50% on top of the tax if you don't withdraw it. And so that is sort of the required minimum distribution, RMD. Why do they do that? Because the government's been planning on that tax revenue. And so they'll penalize you 50%. If you're supposed to withdraw $50,000 and you don't, the penalty is $25,000 that year on top of the tax on the $50,000, which could be as much as 30 or 40%, depending upon which state you live in. They're going to just totally penalize you and tax you to almost to death if you don't start taking out the money. Okay. So he was at that age 70 and a half. And so his advisor did what most advisors do. He said, you know what? His name was Bill. Bill, take out the RMD. Now, his money was in the market. How much money did he have in his IRAs? $600,000 in the market. And he realized that this advisor was the same old, follow the herd, just hang in there. The market always comes back. He had witnessed that $600,000 in his IRAs due to the market volatility drop down to under $400,000 in the previous 6 years because of the market crash, especially in 2008. And it took several years for that $400,000 to come back to $600,000 again. And he knew it was probably going to happen again. And he was fed up with, the market will always come back. So he was intrigued when he came to our educational seminar to learn about indexed universal life, how you can accumulate, access, and transfer your money totally income tax free, but how you can use indexing so that when the market goes down, you don't lose when the market crashes. You may not make much of anything, but you don't lose. He would not have lost one dime of his $600,000 down to $400,000. It would have stayed at $600,000 and he would have started making money again in 2009, like many of our clients did, who locked in gains of 16% the first 90 days in 2009 after not losing a penny in 2008. So he was really intrigued with that. So he came in and he says, Doug, I have the 600,000 in IRAs, and my advisor is very adamant that I start taking out just RMDs now. I said, well, how much is that this year? And it was 24,000. I go, okay, so you withdraw the required minimum, thinking you're saving tax. He goes, well, that's what he says. I go, oh, well, let me show you. That's a fallacy. 24,000, and you're in a 33% combined federal and state income tax bracket. You pull out 24,000, you're only netting 16,000. You have to pay 8,000, a third in tax. So you're netting 16,000 to buy gas, groceries, prescriptions, and golf green fees. And he said, yeah, I don't even need that, but that's pretty pathetic. I go, yeah, that is really ridiculous. You're netting 16,000. And next year, you're going to have to pull out a little bit more and a little bit more every year. And he thinks he's saving you tax by stringing it out. I said, here's how much you'll pay in tax if you string it out. And he was flabbergasted. He would end up paying taxes well over $500,000 or more by following his advisor's advice, by stringing it out and taking RMDs out to his life expectancy. I said, let me show you a strategic rollout. So the first phase of a strategic rollout is where we illustrate let's get the money out like in 5 years and get the taxes over and done with sooner than later. And just take the net after tax and put it into a portfolio of IUL policies. LASERfunds is what I call them, okay? And so simply put, I said, I'm going to show you how to pull out $150,000 a year. He was earning 8.25%. I said, okay, let's assume 8.25%. If we pull out $150,000 a year times 5 years, that's $750,000. So your $600,000 is going to be growing while we're getting it out. And so we're actually going to roll out a total of $750,000 over 5 years, $150,000 a year. And let's just bite the bullet and pay $50,000 on the $150,000 annual withdrawal in tax. He's like, ugh. I go, you're going to pay it sooner or later. He goes, I know. I get it. So he pulls out $150,000 a year, pays a third, $50,000 in tax. He nets $100,000. He puts a net of $100,000 after tax into his IUL policies. He took out two to diversify. So at the end of that 5 years, he had $500,000 in his IUL policies, okay, instead of $750,000 in his IRAs. Now, he actually had a little bit more than $500,000 because it's growing too. But let's just keep it simple. $500,000 in the IUL policies, because they were earning between 8 to 10%, he was able to withdraw now $40,000 at 8%, tax-free. Some years he earned over 10%, that's $50,000, totally tax-free. How much more is $40,000 or $50,000 tax-free than a net of $16,000 after tax on RMDs? It was 2.5 to 3 times the income, and it was tax-free. And if he happened to die, that $500,000 left behind $1,250,000 tax-free. It was by far better. But do you want to hear, as Paul Harvey would say, the rest of the story? What did we really do? I'm a tax strategist. He's a real estate investor. I said, Bill, you've been killing your tax deductions by paying these off. I said, do you understand how money works? You could refinance these rental homes and these rental properties right now at 6% tax deductible interest. You can deduct the interest on your tax returns on these properties, Schedule E or your LLCs, whatever you're doing here. And you borrow at 6%, which is a net cost of 4. You're earning 8 or more. How much more is 8 than 4? It's 100% more. He got it. We resurrected tax deductions on his multiple rental properties, which offset the $50,000 of tax liability on his IRA rollouts. In 5 years, we offset all of the tax. He ended up with $750,000 out of his IRAs or 401ks, tax-free, because we resurrected deductions. You got it? Okay. $750,000 in his IUL portfolio generates at 8% or 10% between $60,000 to $75,000 a year of tax-free income. How much more is that? At 9%, he quadrupled his net spendable income. He was netting $16,000. Now he's getting around $64,000 average a year tax-free. $64,000 is 4 times $16,000. He is so glad he came to an educational seminar and set up some LASERfunds to quadruple his income, and we saved him $250,000 of unnecessary tax. We simply redirected it to his own retirement. Now, if this is going over your head, that's okay. If it's resonating with you and you want to learn, I want to gift you a copy of this book so you can learn about this story and many others like it. This is called The LASERFund. It's my 11th book. It's been flying off of our warehouse shelves. I want to gift you a copy. You don't have to pay retail of $20 on Amazon. You simply go to laserfund.com, LASERfund.com, or click on the link below. You contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling. You put some skin in the game. I will pay for the book. I'll fire out a hard copy to you. There's also options there if you'd like to listen and learn, watch and learn. But check out some of the online educational webinars. And you can also talk to an IUL specialist if you would like at no obligation or charge to you to see how setting up a LASERfund may be the best solution for your retirement and how you can do a strategic rollout and save yourself a ton of unnecessary tax.